Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic, here with another patron special tune-up. But before we get started, I wanted to let you know that if you like this content, you can subscribe to the channel or check out our Patreon. Your support is how we continue to make these videos every week. Premium patron Tim Conan writes, "Here's my brand new brew around Strixhaven's Hofri Ghostforge. I typically play higher power level tuned decks. I'm not a fan of big combo wins, but a couple are acceptable to increase the power level of a deck. I have no real budget restrictions, save to keep any new commander cards under $100. First of all, Tim, thanks for supporting the channel. It's viewers like you that help me do this every week. If you want to help support the channel, head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/cmdrmechanic. Hofri is a brand new Lorehold commander out of Strixhaven, and I'm not surprised to see you brewing around it. This fancy new mythic dwarf cleric is a 5-mana 4/4 who reads, "Spirits you control get +1/+1 and have haste and trample. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, exile it. If you do, create a token copy, except it's also a spirit. When that token dies, put the original back into your graveyard." This has a lot of really interesting implications. Hofri can lead a spirit tribal deck to make them all little ball lightnings, or play with enter the battlefield effects and death triggers to get extra copies of value creatures. This is an effect we've only really seen on a black card, Nightmare Shepherd, and it's interesting to be able to use it in the command zone in red and white. I immediately look to a commander like Felden of the Third Path for inspiration, but let's see how Tim has built his deck. So it looks like Tim's building around enters the battlefield and leaves the battlefield triggers, including strong offerings from Fanatic of Mogus, Solemn Simulacrum, and Cavalier of Dawn. These effects are fantastic to only get once, but once we start getting multiple triggers, multiple times, they become incredible value. We're using this to do damage with Terror of the Peaks, Pandemonium, and Warstorm Surge too, stretching our dying creature spirits a little bit further. This could potentially be a big win con for us if we look at similar effects, allowing us to come out of nowhere and win without needing to deal combat damage. Now I can also see that you've taken some inspiration from a similar list led by Breon Stoutarm, who is in this list. You've included some threaten effects to gain control of opponents' creatures and sacrifice them, getting the token copy for yourself. While that's a clever strategy, I want to explore it a bit further. And you have some incredible utility already in the list. Jessica's Will, one of the all-stars out of Commander Legends, Goblin Bombardment, and Panharmonicon. These pieces all really help you get the deck humming and get more value out of these creatures. It looks like we're trying to merge several strategies into one deck. We want to steal creatures, we want to sneak attack creatures, we want to fling creatures, and really we're kind of all over the place. What I mean is, if we don't have all of the right parts of all of the right strategies, then the deck's not doing a whole heck of a lot. If you've got the flings, but not the threatens, then you're left trying to fling your own creatures, and that's negative value, not positive. If you've got the enters the battlefield effects, but none of the creatures that really trigger off of them or do better with them, then the deck's just kind of half functioning. In the end, we want to focus around a strategy that works best when Hofri is in play, but works without Hofri in play. Really, we need to come up with a concise strategy that the deck functions all together, regardless of what parts or pieces we draw. Now again, right now we have equal parts gain control effects like Conquering Manticore, enters the battlefield effects like Geist Honored Monk, and fling effects like Bloodshot Cyclops. After speaking with Tim and working with him on this tune-up, he's asked me to make it faster or stronger, whichever strategy works. Completely fair. In this instance, I think we can include sack outlets that don't require creatures that tap. That's going to speed up our strategy and not rely on us waiting to fling something. So let's instead focus on our enter the battlefield effects and sack effects, getting more value while removing these threaten and fling effects. And before we get to my recommendations for replacements and upgrades, I wanted to remind you that if you're looking to order any of the cards that we talk about today, or pre-order anything from Strixhaven, check out our affiliates. Our Canadian affiliate, Harry Tarantula, where you can use the promo code CMDR Space Mechanic at checkout to support the channel, or our TCG Player affiliate link. Links to both are in the description. Now, with our revised strategy in mind, we'll be replacing Brion's Stout Arm, Bloodshot Cyclops, and Heartpiecer Manticore with more reliable static sack effects. I always recommend the altars here. Altar of Dementia, and if it's within your budget, Phyrexian Altar. Ashnod's Altar is already in your list. In addition to Goblin Bombardment, these are hands down your best ways to sacrifice creatures on demand. They also come down before your commander, so you can ensure they're ready to go when Hofri joins the battle. You also have Martyr's Cause in the list, another enchantment that lets us sack on demand to prevent damage. Let's include its friend Fanatical Devotion too, an outlet that can save our commander Hofri in a pinch. Now, we really can keep some of the threatened effects. Molten Primordial, for instance, is a fine late-game keeper, allowing you to yoink and keep creatures from each opponent. Smaller effects like Claim the Firstborn or Wrangle may go in favor of Coercive Recruiter. This is an enters the battlefield effect that nabs a creature. Two things that we're looking to do in this deck on one card. We'll also want strong creatures with enter the battlefield effects. Taking inspiration from Big Purphoros, let's include creatures that make friends like Chancellor of the Forge, Hallowed Spirit Keeper, and Mere Battlesphere. Getting twice as many friends for half the cost is great. Even better if you can sneak attack them in to cheat those mana costs. And what I really want to do is improve that card draw. You've got the new Secret Rendezvous from Strixhaven in, and yo, that card's bad. Let's get Wheelie up in here. That's Red's strength. Wheel of Misfortune is a good wheel that's just a couple bucks, along with Valakut Awakening. Both can help you get better hands, and in the case of Valakut Awakening, at instant speed, or being an MDFC land in a pinch. Getting creatures back from our yard, being able to reuse them, is very important in this deck. That gets us 4 times the value rather than 2 times the value. So, new includes like Venerable Warsinger and Reconstruct History out of Strixhaven are both slam dunks. Warsinger is already a spirit, and it can be used again and again. An easy include. One of the last cards I'd recommend we find space for is Ox of Agonis. This creature has an enters the battlefield effect that gives us a mini wheel, but also has the very important escape keyword. Escape lets us cast the creature from our graveyard for its escape cost and exiling a few cards. And since Hofri puts the exiled cards back into the yard when the token dies, this means we can cast and copy the Ox over and over and over. It's a threat that never goes away, and it's a way for us to ensure we're seeing new cards again and again. On that same note, Underworld Breach can allow us to do the same thing with any card in our yard. With a few sack outlets and enough cards in our graveyard, we can easily make a field of creatures. I'd want to include Hall of Heliod's Generosity in the land base to make sure we can use this or any of our important enchantments over and over again. For upgrades, there are some pricier pieces I'd want to see in the list, primarily of which is Dockside Extortionist. I know, Chris, Dockside is always in your upgrades. And there is a truth to that. But in a list where you can double up on Dockside and potentially loop them from the yard with an Underworld Breach, you cannot exclude it. Next up is the new Monologue tax from the C21 Precons. While not yet released, this card is going to be an all-star akin to Smothering Tithe and Rhystic Study. In any deck running white, you'll want this card. It's free mana for things every opponent is going to be doing, casting spells. Lastly, if you really want to push power, invest in artifact mana. Chrome Mox in particular can help ramp in a deck that doesn't have a lot of regular ramp options, and casting a 2 mana spell on turn 1 is a big advantage. Being able to get Hofri down even 1 to 2 turns earlier is huge in a deck that has this many synergies. So let's take a look at our final list. We've added a couple of lands and reworked our spells and creatures to eliminate the fling aspects of the deck in favor of leaning harder into the enters the battlefield synergies. I've added in several creatures with strong enters the battlefield or dies triggers that allow us to use Hofri's unique ability to ensure that if an opponent thinks that they've gotten rid of a threat, it's still here. And it will always be here. We have stronger card draw now as well, and a few board wipes which we were missing. Altogether, this looks like a fun build that really exemplifies the spirit of Lorehold. Be sure to let us know in the comments how you've changed your deck, Tim, and thanks for choosing to support the channel. Everyone else, let us know in the comments what you would do to continue to improve this list. Until next time, good luck and have fun. As always, a special thanks to all of our patrons, without whom this would not be possible. A big shout out goes to our Lodestone Golems, Ben Frayne, Sterling Lankford, Will Briggs, Ben Davis, David Neri, Corey Whitaker, and Snipes. And especially our premium patrons are Metalwork Colossi, Austin Charlotte, Charles Olson, Matthew Chandler, Ben Shackelford, Pulsating Kiwi, Jim, Raphael Lum, Wyatt M, and Timothy Conan. Thank you, all of you. You make this possible.